We need more nurses. We need more certified nurses assistants, more staff people, particularly in nursing homes and hospitals. How good it is to do business and how good it will be to do business in New York State in the future. Hi, I'm State Senator George Mazios, and welcome to my weekly legislative report. It's a real pleasure for me today to have two very special guests. First of all, we have Stacie Brancini. Stacie, welcome.
Thank you,
and,
Senator.
Wendy Smith. Wendy, welcome to you too, all the way from Minnesota.
Yes.
Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
Listen, we're here today for a very happy occasion, probably one of the best days during the course of the Senate legislative session, and that's a day to celebrate women of distinction. Each year, the Senate has a nomination process where individual women throughout New York State are nominated to be recognized for their contributions to the community. And this year, without your knowledge, Stacie, I think I nominated Stacie Brancini of the It Happened to Alexis Foundation, which I have to say in the 12 years that I've been in the New York State Senate, and the many years that I have been in public life in Western New York, and particularly in Niagara County, I came to learn of the It Happened to Alexis Foundation, the great work that you've done, the good that has come out of a very tragic situation. And I was honored to nominate you, Stacie, and glad that you were selected as one of the women of distinction here in New York State. So, Stacie, why don't you, I'm sure that our listeners are interested in the It Happened to Alexis Foundation, and, you know, if you don't mind, give us a little bit of the history and how it all came about. And it's really a heart-wrenching story. I guess I should warn our listeners. It's not an easy thing, I'm sure, to talk about.
No,
but
it's not, and it probably never will be. I used to think that it would get easier with time, but it really doesn't. The foundation was started because of our daughter's sexual assault at Boston University in 1999. She was a freshman, had been there just about a week, when a stranger who had nothing to do with the university broke in and took her at knife point from the common shower room on the second floor. And from that nightmare began a new nightmare, which was the trial process. Obviously, we had never been involved in a criminal proceeding before, and it required many flights back and forth to Boston, costly hotel stays, so on and so forth, not to mention the emotion and the heart-wrenching circumstance that put our daughter in. But as we went along with this process, when the trial finally came to be, we ended up being in the city of Boston for almost a month. And it was very expensive. And my husband, whose brainchild this whole thing was, said to me, how would someone that didn't have the money do this? How would they be there to support their daughter or their sister, whatever their loved one was? How would they do this? Because it was costing us thousands and thousands of dollars. And he said, when this is all over, we're going to do something about it. Ergo, the It Happened to Alexis Foundation. So what we do is we provide services to the victim and her family, or his family, because we often forget that although 1 in 4 women are sexually assaulted in this country, 1 in 6 men or boys are assaulted too. And what we do is we pay for support people to go to trial with the victim if the jurisdiction is more than 60 miles from their hometown. It's airfare or gas fare or anything it takes to get them to the trial site, and then we pay hotel and meals also. Little did we know that when we started this there was so much more to it, because we've become a support network. We now refer to other agencies when something that a family needs is outside of our scope. We've learned how to refer them out, help them get funding for other things outside of what we are able to fund, and so on and so forth. So that grew. But what also happened was I thought I'd be sitting behind a desk writing checks and just, you know, making hotel and plane reservations, kind of like a travel agent. But it turned out to not be so, because as a mother of a victim, when you get a phone call from another mom, that empathy takes hold and you become someone for them to call up when they're at their lowest moment. And when they need to cry, or when they think they can't go on any further because their child or their loved one is being ripped apart in a courtroom with innuendo and lies, they need someone to say, this will be over, and just keep telling the truth, and the truth will prevail, and it usually does. But they need to hear that from someone that can say to them, I've been there, done that, and it will work, it will get better.
Unfortunately, I would also think that sometimes criminal defense attorneys attempt to take advantage of the fact that a victim doesn't live close by. So they may stretch the process out,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
will.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
Because-
cancel hearings,
Yes.
preliminary hearings and so forth,
Yeah.
knowing that it's going to be difficult for the victim. And then, of course, they'll offer a plea deal, you know, to try to get the perpetrator, you know, less prison time or whatever.
Absolutely. Happens
So,
all the time.
I'm sure it does. So really, the It Happened to Alexa Foundation has probably assisted victims in really getting justice.
Absolutely, and by not allowing plea deals, they get tougher sentencing, and that's what we want. We want these perpetrators off the streets because they don't stop, and the next time they don't leave a witness. That's the sad statistic. And the other thing that people don't realize is by delaying this and delaying this, the victim who's already suffering, usually from post-traumatic stress disorder and depression, they're not able to work or go back to school, and they're just burying themselves further into a hole of withdrawing from society. It makes it harder for them to go forward with the court case. So we've had victim advocates and district attorneys call and say, when so-and-so's sister or brother walked into the courtroom, the defense attorney was irate. How did they get here? What are they doing here? Who brought them here? Because they know better than anyone how important support for a victim is.
Sure. And you know, speaking of victims, unfortunately, Wendy Smith is joining us here. Wendy is from Minnesota, and Wendy was a victim of a sexual assault who was assisted by the It Happened to Alexa Foundation.
Yes.
Wendy, I appreciate you. It's very brave, really, of both of you to be here today, to go on television. And really, this is about getting the message out about what good can come from evil, really, and how important this foundation is. Wendy, you want to tell us a little bit about your story and how you came to know about the It Happened to Alexa Foundation?
Well, I knew nothing about something out there like what she had. I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. My family was a victim of a crime, and we were sleeping in our beds in the middle of the night, and a man came through the door, throwing the door through into the living room, and came at me and sexually assaulted me, broke my wrist. We went around and around, and I was thankful enough by the good grace of God that somebody else was there, because he had been watching for 2 days and had every intention on me not exiting the house or ever seeing daylight again. And that was his plan. But that day I asked why, and 5-6 months later down the road, while they were going through their paperwork of putting it off and putting it off and putting the trial off, and finally it came up that they came to a plea agreement. And I was not a part of it anymore, and they wouldn't bring me up there for it in regards to having any type of say in the plea bargaining. Basically what it boiled down to is he was dealing with criminal sexual assault in the first degree, and he was dealing with burglary, and he was also dealing with, I'm sorry, one more item that I'm not completely aware of at this moment, but
your family had relocated you for your own safety, for the state of Florida.
Yes, we had to pick up.
So all of these criminal proceedings were taking place in Minnesota.
We were out of money. We had nothing left. We were being thrown out of our house down there. We lost our business. My daughter is just now, after 2 years, getting back to things, which is good for her. Anyways, when they had called to announce about this plea bargaining, they told me they were not going to fund me to come because they had come to a conclusion and they agreed. And as a victim, you do not have the right to say this is what's going to happen. You have the right to say, well, I feel this way, but then you are to disappear into the woodwork. So this is where I picked the phone up and began to dial out to Minnesota, and I found Stacie Brancini of the It Happened to Alexa Foundation. And I got her on the phone, and I didn't even introduce myself. I began to stutter through it, going, this gentleman is going to get off from what he did to us, and they're going to set him free, and he's going to do it again. And thanks to Stacie, they thought I was not going to come the next day, and Stacie funded my money. I flew that night. I wrote all night long to the judge. I had it couriered to the judge. I told the judge I'd be sitting in the courtroom. The look on the people's face in that courtroom was priceless. But it did help me, and it did help. He did end up with more time. But there are no laws intact right now that help to support the victims when they find the evidence. They throw it away like it's not important. So thanks to Stacie, what I thought was not going to happen at all became a reality quickly.
And your only contact up to today was really
the phone,
right?
over the last year.
You actually met today for the first time.
But we felt like we knew each other. We spent a lot of time on the phone.
Yeah.
But she was, it wasn't the only thing she assisted with.
Well,
she continued to assist for 2 more months.
You know, it's so important, the work that the It Happened to Alexa Foundation does for victims like you. Stacie, how many victims in the, what now, 5 years the foundation's been?
No, well, we're just starting our 4th year.
Okay.
163 families so far. And it doesn't always come down to having to pay for the trial travel either. Very often they reach a plea agreement, and with those victims, we send reading materials, we give other kinds of support to them and to help them get through the process. But sometimes the plea satisfies both parties, and so 163 families have directly benefited from the foundation so far. But right now we have a really high number that are in the works. We have 10 going on right now.
Really? Wow.
Yes, and we're starting to receive more and more applications from incest victims, because sometimes the moms flee the state where the crime happened, and then they are not eligible for aid from the state they've moved to. So they're completely cut. There's a big gap in victim services, and people just don't realize that we are so busy sometimes helping the perpetrators, we forget about the victims. And I think that's a really important issue that we all should pay attention to.
Well, I know that the foundation, from the first days when I became acquainted with it, has changed a lot. You have an executive director.
We have an executive director, Elena Jello, and she's doing a great job. And we have a part-time bookkeeper, office manager, Anne, and they hold down the fort. They're answering those phones, and they're learning to be travel agents and all kinds of things.
And always, I'm sure it's another uncomfortable subject to talk about. Raising funds is always important.
Oh,
and I know
it's really difficult.
That every year a benefit is held for the foundation, and it's been very. I know I've attended several of them, and my wife has attended them, and they're very nice events. And
every spring we have our fundraiser, but we're perfectly willing to raise funds year-round.
Well, that's because it's very expensive, I'm sure, to help.
Oh,
these
absolutely.
crime.
Each family is eligible up to $3,000.
It was an honor for me to nominate you, and Wendy, thank you very much for being here. And
thank you.
On the screen, we're going to have some information on how you can contact It Happened to Alexa Foundation. It's easier to refer to it as the IHTA Foundation. And clearly, support is always welcome. So thanks again, Stacie, Wendy. Thank you for coming all the way.
No, thank you.
Okay, so we're trying to get the word out. Thanks again.
Thanks so much.